Welcome back to the Real with Joseph Atlatman. I am Joseph Atlatman. Hope you guys having a great Wednesday afternoon. Welcome into the Real. If you're new here, please like, subscribe, and share. I'd really appreciate that. And shout out to all new subscribers. And please hit the like button on the way in here. Leave a comment below today's video. We're gonna get right to it. So we're gonna have a real life discussion again today on the back end of the show. Um, Hummel's got a video by Theo Vaughn from a podcast he was on. Um, Sharing a pretty interesting message. So we'll react to that. I think you guys will enjoy that discussion. As some of you have really liked those segments. And then the second part of the show, we're going to get to the main topic. You can see right here, as you see in the thumbnail today, it says the heat is on. And I'm going to explain that here in a minute. Why the heat is on in Cleveland, I think, for the Cavs front office, particularly Koby Altman, and some news about him today, where his future could be going. And then also Kenny Atkinson, and where I think, and a lot of people think where he stands right now, currently with the organization. But we're going to start with last night's game. Obviously, before the game, I did a homecoming 3.0 brewing, question mark, video of the news about LeBron obviously possibly coming back to Cleveland. And, ESPN Cleveland put out an article talking about how Jared Allen could be a potential piece this offseason. They trade Jared Allen. LeBron would basically do a sign and trade with the Lakers and the Cats, which sent Jared Allen. And LeBron would actually make more money if he plays in Cleveland next year than he would in LA. He can get more money. And just kind of the nostalgia, the farewell tour in Cleveland, makes a lot of sense. And obviously the Lakers last night got a very commanding win over the Cavs, 127 to 113. They kind of really just dominated the Cavs all night, controlled the game. But I don't think that game really impacted anything about LeBron's future last night. It was just a regular season game, middle of last day of March, on a back-to-back for both teams. And so I actually picked the Lakers to win the game yesterday. And so, but I think even after the game, though, the odds still have not shifted. LeBron is still favored to come back home to Cleveland this offseason. And I think last night really said a lot about LeBron and Jared Allen and how really that trade proposal that they put out yesterday, I think last night, in my opinion, both guys were both showing it wasn't just about winning the game for their teams. I think it was LeBron last night looked still very explosive. He still looked very he still looked like LeBron in some spots. He still dominated the game, had a very good game defensively last night. Was able to get up and down the court, kind of do whatever he wanted. Obviously, Luka had a monster game, 42 points, but LeBron still looked like a high impact player, no doubt about it. We all know that. But I think he really turned it up a notch last time. First play of the game, he goes out and just swats Donovan Mitchell's shot right in the stands. And then Jared Allen last night, first game back, and he had a great night. He was unstoppable last night. DeAndre Ayton could not handle him. He was much better than DeAndre Ayton was, that's for sure. And I think he would be a clear upgrade for LA from DeAndre Ayton. DeAndre Ayton's played decent. It's not a knock on him, but Jared Allen's looked like an all-star center last night. And so I think, it's kind of funny. Last night, both sides, LeBron and Jared Allen, I think they really, it was almost like they were, to me, when I watched the game, like they were proving to both teams, like, this is why you should trade for me, like what Jared Allen saying to the Lakers, and LeBron said, giving the Cavs no doubt why you should bring me back and why you should possibly, move one of your core four pieces, Jared Allen. And so, that's kind of how I saw it. So, I thought Chris Fedor had a really good article today. Obviously, probably the most known Cavs beat reporter for Cleveland.com. His article was Cavs get crushed by Lakers 127 to 113 on historic night for LeBron James. And I believe LeBron passed Kareem Abdul-Jabbar first. I think it was Kareem he passed for us, something statistically. I can't remember the stat. But it was a historic night for him statistically. But he had a great game. And I thought this article was interesting, though, because at the end of the article, he obviously talks about the game and kind of, Kenny Atkinson talked about what went wrong for the Cavs, as a lot of the defensive problems, in my opinion, still trickled for the Cavs. They're still there. And I'm going to get to some of those in a minute. I got 3 clips for you guys where it's just the same old thing. Perimeter defense isn't great. Rotations aren't great. They're bad transition. They're horrible in transition defense. And, I thought some of Kenny's comments, too, were interesting, where he talked about how the first unit just wasn't. He said I'm paraphrasing a little bit, how they were just seeing that they were running in mud all night. And we've seen a lot of these quotes from Kenny Atkinson recently, not calling out the whole team, but particularly the core guys. Really, he's calling out that starting group a lot recently defensively, challenging them. And almost kind of questioning their effort at times to me. And so I thought, Kenny's comments I thought were very interesting because he keeps, basically calling out this core group in a way. And so, to me, I find those interesting. I find those comments interesting. And then also, but at the end of the article, he talks about how Chris Fedor made a great point. How it looked like last night, even at age 41, it's like the Cavs looked like they need LeBron more than LeBron needs them. And how LeBron really could be the piece that the Cavs need to really, seal the deal and hopefully get over the hump in the playoffs. Because when I look at the Cavs right now, like a lot of people, I don't see a team that's going to get out of the East. I don't see a team that I don't know if they'll get out of the second round because just defensively, they could score points just as well as anybody, but they cannot get stops. And I think, that's a big problem. And I think last night you also saw too some of the same issues from transitional defense. And I got some of those clips right here from last night's game. Here's the first one. You got a 41-year-old guy outrunning the whole team right here. He steals the ball. James Harden does not get back. He gets caught in no man's land. Naquan Thomas trying to recover, but LeBron outruns everybody. And it's just you got outran by a 41-year-old and Jake LaRavia and Bronny. I mean, that's unacceptable. It's just their transition defense. A lot of it's just effort. It's just bad effort. And then you go to the next play. They turn the ball over. Donovan Mitchell, you're the last one back. As soon as he attacks, you got to be right here. In case something happens, you got to be able to get back. Well, we get out of position. Nobody gets back. And this is easy two-hand slam easy slam dunk on the other end, right? And then, so that's transition defense. Not there again. That's just not there. Bad transition defense. Excuse me. And then the last slide I have for you, or last play, nobody gets back. And Jake LaRavia has a great dunk over Jared Allen. Now, Jared Allen was there, but still, I just see a lot of jogging. I don't see, we're not putting pressure on the ball. Mobley's backpedaling. Obviously, his guys are here. Donovan Mitchell's just kind of jogging back. Jared Allen's not even turned around. He's looking all the way over here. He's looking the opposite direction. And it's just bad defense. And James Harden's back here. But it's like, how come nobody's back to guard this guy? I mean, it's just like, it's not even really like anything they're doing wrong other than just bad effort, bad fundamentals, and just like bad communication, and just like this another example right here. And that's been the case all the way going back to last season against the Pacers. They got just shredded in transition defense. And so, to me, the Cavs right now, and then also last night, Evan Mobley had a monster game the night before, right? He had 34 points, 17 rebounds. He finally had 21. He had 20 or more shot attempts finally. He had 21 shot attempts. I think he was 16 to 21 that night. Didn't even shoot a single three. Just dominated down low. And the Cavs had a horrific night shooting for three. I think they were like in the single digits shooting for three that night. And yet, because they had 82 points in the paint, and a lot of it was Evan dominating down low, they still won the game against a Utah Jazz team that obviously is not very good. So, I think there's two things. Kenny Atkinson has not been able to, in my opinion, get to this team and where they need to be. He when he got here last year, he elevated them offensively a little bit. They were good for the regular season, but then when they got in the postseason, they reverted back to what they did under JB, and they were worse defensively. And then this year, they really kind of just picked their spots. Like some nights they look great. They play complementary basketball on both ends. And, they could score a lot of points because of the personnel, but then there's a lot of times they can't get their defensively. They have, in my opinion, they have gotten worse under Kenny Atkinson. They're horrible in transition defense, like we saw. And a lot of it, I put some of it on Koby Altman too, because, I think they have so many shooters, and I think they have a lot of one-dimensional guys. They have guys that aren't, when you have James Harden and Donovan Mitchell, you have, a smaller two guard, and you have James Harden, who's not the greatest defender. Now you brought in Dennis Schroeder and Keon Ellis, which is great, but on the wings, I don't think they have like a legit like defender. They just don't have. I mean, Max Strus, he plays very hard. I think he's a good player, but I don't think Max Strus is a great defender. Like Sam Merrill's not a great defender. Dean Wade's definitely not a great defender by any means. They just don't have that wing defender. And I think that's where, at some feelings where Koby Altman's had. But, Kenny Atkinson said recently, it's not a personnel problem. but yet the same problems are happening defensively. Even against bad teams, you're still giving up 100, 10, 120 points. I think Utah, I can't remember the score of that game, but still, they're getting up a lot of points, and you just can't win in the postseason like that. Last year, shout out to Miles Matthews. He said Cavs had major injuries last postseason. Yeah, I mean they had injuries, no doubt about it. Hurt them. They didn't have, especially another ball handler. But I think when you go back and watch that series, I did a lot of film breakdown at that time. A lot of it was just bad fundamental basketball defensive. Like they're just not getting back, not rotating, settling for threes. I mean, at one point, I remember Max Strus got the ball on the corner, went 1-on-1 and did a reverse layup and airballed it. A reverse airball layup. I mean, that's kind of where offense was at that time in that series. They just got out. They were out executed. They were just a better out-coached. Honestly, Rick Carlisle just out-coached Kenny Atkinson, and his team was just more prepared for the moment. And defensively, they were a lot better than the Cavs. The Cavs just defensively not very good. Don't get back on defense in transition. They get killed there all the time. And a lot of it's too, when they settle for threes, if they go one-on-one and they turn the ball over, or if they shoot those longer threes, a lot of times can turn into longer rebounds. Teams just leak out and they start going and they just push the pace on the Cavs. And that's what the Lakers did last night. They dominated the Cavs. How every team, the team that's equally as talented or more talented or better than the Cavs. I don't say more talented, but better than the Cavs. Like the Celtics when they play them, the Lakers, the Thunder, those types of teams, they always use the same formula against the Cavs. Let's shoot less threes than the Cavs because we're going to use their own game against them. They're going to come out and hoist at least 35 threes. Probably around 40, 45. They're going to make 30. So, usually they're making 35% of those. And so, like the Lakers last night, they shot less threes than the Cavs. I think they shot 31 attempts, 13 of 31 for 42%. Cavs were 13 of 39 for 33%. So the Lakers were a lot more efficient last night. They were 54% from the field goal percentage, 92% from the free throw line. Cavs were 74% from the free throw line last night, which is terrible. Fast break points, Lakers got 16 of those. I mean, just, not a great night and for the Cavs overall, but I think it's the same formula against the Cavs. If you push the pace on them, when you get the ball, push the pace, if you be more efficient offensively than they are and not jack up a ton of threes like them, you're probably going to win. And, I just think last night was another example. We saw Evan Mobley previous weeks, especially the last game without Jared Allen, how much better he is because he has more space down there to operate and he actually gets touches and gets the ball and is able to, get more shot attempts. And you see him last night. Evan Mobley last night had 4 shot attempts. 4 shot attempts for Evan Mobley last night. And they only lost by 14. I mean, at one point, the Cavs kind of creeped back a little bit. Evan Mobley had 4 shot attempts in the game last night. That's it. 6 points, 4 rebounds. And the night before, the guy had 34 and 17. But Max Strus had 8 shot attempts, 7 threes. Now, that's fine. Max was 3 of 7. He had a nice night. But I just didn't know, what world does Max Strus have more? Should he have more shot attempts than Evan Mobley? I continue. Naquan Tomlin, this is even worse. 9 shot attempts. Thomas Bryant, 7. Craig Porter Jr., 3. Keon Ellis, 6. Tyrese Proctor, 5, the rookie. Evan only had 4. So Naquan Tomlin, Thomas Bryant, Dennis Schroeder, Craig Porter Jr., Keon Ellis, and Tyrese Proctor. Pretty much everybody off the bench except Craig Porter Jr. had just as, even Larry Nance had 4 shot attempts. Everybody off the bench had just as many or more shot attempts than Evan Mobley last night. He had 4 shot attempts. And I got to look at the coach like, hey, man, your team's not getting better defensively. Clearly, whatever message you've been saying through the media is not working. He's called out guys publicly through the media. It ain't working because they're not responding. They're not showing more effort defensively. They're not being more efficient offensively. They're not having that consistency. Evan Mobley back with Jared Allen again. Jared Allen had a nice night, but Evan Mobley just kind of diminishes. He has to stand out of the perimeter and shoot more threes than he should, and he doesn't get as many touches because you have 2 other guys on the perimeter that have to have the ball in their hands. And then, but ultimately, when you can't get stops either, they're just, when you have no paint presence and on the defensive side of the ball, when teams are just getting to the rack, like last night, the Lakers seemed like they just got anything they wanted last night. Because they could just penetrate by the guards. get right by it because we can't hold our own one-on-one defensively most nights. And, that forces Jared Allen to have to come up and to chain reaction. They dump it down to, DeAndre Ayton or whoever. He had a lot of easy shots last night just created from, Luka just penetrating the basket or Austin Reeves or even LeBron. You know what I mean? So the Cavs they have not addressed their problems. And I got to look at, I could sit and talk about these players all day. Like, James Harden, I got at him a little bit recently for effort defensively. But James is who he is at this point in his career. I mean, he's 35 years old. I mean, we know who James Harden is. He can still go out there and be an effective player. We know that. He can, the other night, he had 14 assists in Utah, and he can go out and get 40 any night he wants. I mean, James Harden's still a high-level player, and he is who he is. He's not a great defender, never has. And at this point in his career, he ain't going to be that. He could be a better team defender, though. He could be a little more, I think better in his rotations and hanging in the passing lane and just, forcing your guy into the bigs. But ultimately, I got to look at the coach for that. The team defense, we may not have the one-on-one guys that we need. And I think, in the offseason, they got to try to get another Wayne in here. Especially if LeBron comes back, you got to get somebody behind him, I think. That's a good defensive Wayne. But I got to look at the coach, though. Like, your team's not getting better in that area. You've actually gotten worse since you've gotten here. And that's on you. Like, whatever you're doing every day in practice, whatever principles you're not preaching or are preaching, it's not working with this team, and it's not winning basketball in the play, and especially not in the postseason against the better teams. You could beat up 500 teams, or maybe get a team every now and then at home, or in Utah you had a horrible night shooting three, but Utah's just that bad. You can get by on them and just outscore those teams. But if you had this outscore mentality all the way through to the postseason, I just don't think that's not a good habit to have going to the postseason, because you're going to get in possibly the first round. I think once you get to the second round, and then definitely if you somehow make the conference finals, that's where you're going to fall short again, because you're not going to be able to get enough stops. And I also think the other problem they have is just Mobley and Allen, I think, have just ran its course. Defensively, I think both of them are good together. Offensively, it's just I don't think it's complimentary. I don't think, Evan, to get the most out of Evan, and they need Evan more, I think, because Evan is a better defender than Jared. Especially just overall, he's a better defender. I think he has obviously higher upside, in my opinion. He's the third overall pick, and we all know Evan Mobley needs to be at a certain level for this team to elevate, especially in the postseason. But I think to get the most out of him, he's better at the 5 because he has more space to operate. And he's put up, when he's been at the 5 with Jared Allen out in the stretch, he's actually had his best ball of the season. If you can look at it statistically and just the number and just watching the film, he's had some big nights. And, I think it's time. I think that's ran its course. And I think that's time to that's where the split has to be right there. They held on to that core 4 for so long. They realized Darius Garland's probably not a guy that you can count on because of injuries, too small. You had to get somebody else in there. They went and got James Harden. That's a much better fit with Donovan, right? A bigger guard who can also is an elite scorer and can play make and take some more pressure off of Donovan. But I think now you got to split up that front court. And obviously, I'm keeping Evan Mobley. Unless I get some like Giannis or something, I may consider it. But Jared Allen, I think it's time to move on. And I think, that's why I said I think last night it was funny. It's like LeBron last night had a great game, because I go back to this report from yesterday. I talked about how a sign and trade theory with LeBron back to Cleveland this summer and Jared Allen being the sign and trade piece that the Cavs would said. It's like Jared had a great game last night in LA and LeBron had a great game against the Cavs. And it's almost like, to me, it was more of like Jared showed the Lakers front office last night in person, like, I'm an all-star center. I'm better than the guy you got. And LeBron, like Chris Fedor wrote, really showed like, you guys still need me. Like, you've always needed me. You're right there. The Cavs aren't that. I mean, they're right there, but it's almost like they're a piece away. They're like a piece and some roster tweaks away. Maybe they're a coach away too. I don't know. And when I say the heat is on, I think if LeBron's going to come back, which I'm still leading that he is, and I think a lot of the odds makers believe that. I think a lot of the writers are kind of hinting towards that from what they're hearing behind the scenes. I think, we've seen this. Number one, we've seen it with LeBron before. When he came back to Cleveland, if he don't like that coach is going to be out of there eventually, and they're going to get somebody in there that he likes. And I just think where the Cavs are right now, to me, Kenny Atkinson has to get this team to a competitive conference finals. And if they don't go to 7 in a conference finals and maybe win or lose, let's say they lose, I think that could be good enough to keep his job. But what I see from his teams defensively, and shout out to B Skrills, Kenny's not a good defense coach. He's really not right now. He's not. And I think he could. I mean, the teams in Brooklyn were always better defensively, but this is not a good defensive team under his watch. They've actually gotten worse. And it's in my opinion, it's their Achilles heel. And, I don't think LeBron's putting up with that. I don't think the Cavs have time with that. When you're bringing in LeBron and you got James Harden, you don't have time to piss around with some coach that's not getting it done. I think Kenny's a good coach. I think Kenny's I like Kenny a lot. I think he's a good dude. I think he's not a bad coach, like I said, but I just think certain situations, man, you require something. You got to get somebody there and get it done. Now, he talked about Mike Malone. That's a hell of a name to bring up, and I appreciate. Thanks for putting that in the chat, B Screw. Because I was sitting there thinking about this today. Because I actually was thinking about, like, what if the Clippers moved on from Ty Lue? I was brainstorming on the fly, but then I'm like, I don't know. I feel like they can get someone. Who else? And I didn't think of Mike Malone. Mike Malone obviously was here with LeBron during his first stint. Mike Malone, in my opinion, is a great coach. I thought he got the raw deal in Denver. Now, if I move Allen and put Mobley at the 5, I saw what he did with Jokic. Some of that offense, when they have those scoring and they got the guys on the perimeter like that, like Jamal Murray and all the shooters, and defensively, they were always, Jokic wasn't the best defender, but Mike Malone, I always thought his teams were very disciplined and they got enough stops. And when they needed to step up, they stepped up. That's probably the guy I would target. He has a relationship with LeBron. I appreciate again Beats Girls put it in the chat because that's I was trying to think of a name that I totally forgot about Mike Malone. But I would go look at a guy like Mike Malone. Because Kenny Atkinson right now, to me, his seat is hot and he's not getting it done. They've gotten worse under his watch. I mean, they got X amount of games left, and I don't know if they're going to get to 50 wins. They should. I mean, they're at 40. They're 47-29 right now, right? They got, let's see, they're 47-29. They got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games left. And Indiana's on there, Memphis, Atlanta, Washington. So they should get to 50 wins. But the fact that we're at April and wonder if we're going to get 50 wins with this type of talent on this roster, to me, that's unacceptable to me. I know they've had some injuries and stuff, but everybody has injuries. Everybody deals with that stuff. The Lakers at one point at the beginning of the season, there was talks, if they had to blow up the team, if LeBron and Luke were going to work. But J.J. Redick, to give him credit, J.J. Redick's done a hell of a job over there. And defensively, they don't have like great defenders over there. I mean, they got some good defenders. I mean, Luke is not a great defender, but lately, man, they've been able to get some stops and they need to. And they're really good as a team defense when they need to be. And he gets on their ass. And they're really efficient, and they're fundamentally as a team, they're very good defensively. They rotate well. You saw last time with turnovers they were forced on the Cavs. I mean, J.J. Redick got it done. He's getting it done with a guy with his star player that's not a great defender, And so, I would say their backcourt's not great defensively. Even Austin Reeves can get picked on some nights. So, and you have a 41-year-old guy, he's still getting it done. There's no excuse for Kenny Atkinson. And I think if Kenny's saying it's not a personnel problem, and I like what Kenny's saying, calling out his guys publicly, but it's like, Kenny, we're in April now. It seems to be a disconnect there because they're not. They haven't gotten better defensively since he made those comments last week where he called out the team after the game after the Dallas game. So, and a reason why I say Koby Altman, the heat might be on for him. Today on Sports, I saw this on Sports Illustrated today. SI for the Cavs. It says the Dallas Mavericks, or I'll read the headline for you. Get this crap out of the way. The Cleveland Cavaliers at risk of losing top executive Koby Altman this offseason. And this article talks about, I think it was Chris Mannix. It says, according to the SI writer Chris Mannix, Altman appears on Dumont's wish list. Now, Dumont is Patrick Dumont. He's a new team governor for the Dallas Mavericks, right? The Dallas Mavericks obviously have Cooper Flagg. They have head coach Jason Kidd, who I think is a really good head coach. But they're wiping out the front office, obviously, after the debacle, the trade they made with Luka. And they're kind of going for a reset. They got a young star in the making, right? I think it's going to be a superstar. And then they got a good coach. They got some other core pieces. Now they got to get that front office to check to kind of build this thing out. And so they're looking for, and there's some big names. So it says Altman appears on Dumont's wish list. So this guy, he's already put out his wish list of executives he wants. He lists Sam Presti, Timberwolves basketball president operations Tim Connolly, and Boston Celtics president Brad Stevens. Now, Sam Presti's not leaving the Thunder. Why would he? Brad Stevens is not leaving the Celtics. That's one of the biggest brands in all of sports, and they're not going anywhere. Why would he leave there? And both those guys will get paid well. I'm sure they've earned it. And then Tim Connolly with the Timberwolves, maybe he would take a job if they were able to poke, but he's got Anthony Edwards, and I don't think he's going to be looking to move. Here's why I think Koby Altman, out of all those names on the list, makes the most sense. Because I think Dan Gilbert, he looks at this roster, he looks at this team, they're going backwards a little bit. They've gone forward in some areas. Like, I thought at the deadline, he did a great job, and I was saying he's on the hot seat, but if a team like Dallas called, right, and LeBron's coming back, there's a lot more pressure on Koby Altman to get it done. And I don't know, LeBron's buddy, Brandon Weems, is the assistant GM. He's next in line, and there's been articles written about him recently about how well he's risen up the ladder and how they think very highly of him. And, I can kind of see it. Maybe I'm just speculating, but I think if we could see Kenny out of here, could we see Koby Altman out of here? Because Koby Altman, he's done a hell of a job. But I think in terms of getting over the hump to be a championship team without LeBron, he just hasn't shown that yet. Like, there's still some deficiencies on the right, like in terms of a wing defender. They held on to that core four for so long. I just wonder, and he's holding on to this front court now. You can clearly tell it's time to move on from those two. And so, unless Kenny, and maybe Kenny has a plan. Maybe Kenny could, when LeBron, he's going to sell him on a plan, and Dan Gilbert agrees with it, that, I can get this done. Here's my plan. Maybe we can collaborate, and we'll get it done. But I do find it interesting his name was thrown out there. I get it's probably just speculation, but, because some of those names, there's no way in hell they're leaving. Like Sam Presti, Brad Stevens, they're not leaving their situations. No way in hell. But, I don't know. I don't know how hot his seat is. Kenny's seat, to me, is definitely hot. He's the coach. Koby Altman, I'm not sure. But if Koby Altman doesn't have a plan or vision that aligns with what I think LeBron's going to want if he comes back, and you got James Harden now, and if he wants to if he doesn't have an idea to get it better, I think he may leave. And Dallas may make sense for him. Dallas may overpay for him. Maybe, who knows? And what if there's a situation where Koby Altman's just kind of like, I feel like I can't do anything here anymore, and LeBron's coming back. He's going to want it. I'm not saying LeBron is who he is. He's an all-time great player, obviously, one of the greatest player ever. Some people say the greatest ever. We know what he means to the franchise. If he comes back and it's his last season, he's going to want things probably a certain way. Let's just be honest. And I think some of the other guys we've heard, we always heard these things about Spider Mitchell, before the deadline. Like, we always heard they got to do something. They got to do something, or he may not re-sign, or he'll want out. It's like, I think these guys slowly put through the agent community. There's these little that doesn't just get sparked from nowhere. I think that's like it's putting pressure on the front office to get stuff done. Now, Koby has always gotten it done when he needed to, but I'm just curious, like, what his vision of a team is, because he, in some ways, defensively, he has not built a great defensive team, and maybe that's not on him. Maybe that's the coach. But it's like when they had JB, they didn't have really the offense they needed to have. They could score points, but they weren't. They needed somebody else. That's why you thought they brought in Kenny, right? They were really good defensively, kind of. Well, I'd say personnel-wise, they were too small of that backcourt. Like they got bullied by the Knicks, right? And so in 23, and then you go to last year, it's like, yeah, we could score points, but they didn't have another ball handler available when Darius went down. They didn't have anybody they can rely on to get the ball over half court. And then defensively, same thing. We're holding on to Dean Wade. We're holding on to all these guys. Yeah, they're good shooters, but they're not good perimeter defenders. Like, they're not guys that help you really get stops and win in the postseason. Like, they say defense wins championships for a reason. We know they could score points just as well as but you got to be able to get stops, and they've gotten worse. And so that's why I think if LeBron is indeed coming back, which seems to be pointing like he is, and even if he doesn't, the heat is still on, because you got James Harden for 2-3 years. You just acquired. You're going to re-sign him. You gave up your all-star guard to get him. You got Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley. You still have Jared Allen. Like, you got to get it done at some point. You got to get over the hump. And this team right now is going backwards. And I think, if Koby Altman could find a way maybe to jump ship, if he feels like his job could maybe be in jeopardy or there's too much pressure, maybe he does go to Dallas. Maybe he likes to just be somebody who likes to build. Maybe that's what he's best at. He's like a bridge GM. He can get a team up to a point. I think Kenny might be that kind of coach. But I think the Cavs now, the heat is on because they got to get in the win now mode after this season. Could they still make a miraculous run? Absolutely, this postseason. Because I don't see it right now. I don't think they're good enough defensively to make it to the finals. Could they? Possibly. But, they're going to have to get in win now mode one way or another this offseason because if what we all think is where it's pointing towards who's coming back and, you better be ready to go all in next year. The time is ticking. So, I don't know. That's how I see it. The heat is on. He said J.A. Mobley best year together was Mobley's rookie year. Yeah, I would say so. Definitely. And I think, that makes sense because Jared was already kind of an established player in the league, still growing. Mobley was a rookie just trying to find his, get his feet wet. When the expectations were high. Yeah, no doubt. I think, but as they grow as players and they develop and emerge and get bigger and they get better as a team, and have gotten better as a team, I think that's where they just kind of okay, maybe they just don't align offensively. Yo, thoughts on? Good to see it. Kaz in 7. He's still keeping the hope alive. I appreciate it. For your comment, it's too obvious the Cavs don't want to be part of the 3rd seed because they know they have to play Boston. Well, they're going to play Boston either way. Whether you want to play them 2nd round or conference finals, you're going to have to go through Boston. The East is going through Boston. Everybody thought they were going away. Tatum came back, and that team was already rolling before he got back. Well coached, just a great organization, obviously. You're going through Boston, no doubt about it, one way or another. But that's my thoughts on the Cavs. I didn't mean to go on a long rant. I mean to keep my man waiting up here. I meant to get him up here earlier, but I got a little sidetracked in my rant. I'm going to give him the floor, though. Joining me now is the man himself to give his thoughts, reactions, all these things. Illyria's finest. Humble's in the building. Humble, what's happening?
What's going on, everybody? Merry Christmas, man. I hope everyone's having a good Christmas. April Fools, man. I hope everyone's having a good day.
Humble, I appreciate being patient, brother. I had a lot to unpack there and kind of I had to explain that thumbnail, and be honest. It was a controversial thumbnail, maybe. Not it's a controversial, but it's a hot thumbnail. I mean, the heat is on. Like it's
on,
I think everybody knows what I'm talking about there. Humble, I broke down a ton there. I guess the floor is yours. Kind of what's your reaction to just everything I had to say, where the Cavs are? Obviously, they had a loss last night, and just kind of the future, where everything is. What's your thoughts on all this?
Yeah, the heat's on, and maybe the Cavs are maybe even in trouble. Our defense looks terrible. I mean, god awful. I mean, we don't have anyone out there who wants to defend. I mean, like you said, it looks like we're out. So it's hard to watch, man. It is. And I'll say it, Donovan Mitchell might not be a leader. He just might not be it.
Why do you say that?
I don't think, it's just crazy because this is the team he wants and everything. And it's just, people are going to blame the injuries and all that stuff. But it's like we've been dealing with this for forever, it seems like. And this is the team he wanted. And they already sent your guy DG out of here. And it's crazy, man. I don't know how to describe it better than it's just like how you say the heat's on, man. Like if we don't perform well, man, you know what time it is. Bring the big man home.
Well, and I think the big man is coming home.
Yeah.
I don't think that anything changed after last night. I think that actually just, to me, it signified more. The vibe was after the game.
Yeah.
Everything we talked about yesterday, it just seems like it makes sense. But, I think too, Humble, it's like, we talked about that recently with Donovan, that it's like, dude, they've went out, they've done it, and like there's already they put out these little things out in the media with him. Like he may leave, he may want to go, and listen, I think Donovan's obviously a phenomenal player, right? But
Right.
he hasn't gotten it done in the postseason. Like, yeah, you're great, but I don't consider you elite. Elite to me is a guy that's a carrier, a guy that can get a team over the hump to the finals and get it done when it matters most. Like, even if or even the team didn't play well around him, he still went out there and did his thing, like LeBron in 18. Like, yeah, that team he had around him dragged them all. Yeah, I mean that's elite. But I don't see that with him, humble. I just see a guy that I think thinks he's Batman, but he's really Robin, a great Robin.
Yeah.
But he hasn't gotten it done, and I just don't see the leadership at times, like you say. I'll be honest, I don't see that either. A lot of it's just by his effort some nights, like defensively, mainly defensively. Offensively, he brings it every night. Now, last night he had a shit game, or excuse me, crap game. He had 2 points at the half, only finished with 11. That was a night where I think he could have really went mano a mano with Luka, but it seemed like LeBron swatted a shot early on, first play of the game, and he just wanted no parts of that. So, and then Luka went out there and dropped 42. It's like, where's the like you got? I want to see, I want the killer. I mean, I want the guy every night. He's got to be a killer every night. I don't need
Yeah.
guy's leader because I don't just don't think that's what he is. That's when LeBron comes back. That's gonna be his role. That's what he does. That's what he's always done. I need Donovan. You need to get into killer mode every single night. Where like Kyrie was him and LeBron didn't always align, and ultimately that was the split. But damn it, there was no question Kyrie showing up in big nights. I always knew Kyrie was going to show up in big games. That guy was a certified killer. Little Kobe. I mean, he was like not saying as good as Kobe, but he had that instinct. He can go out
Oh
and
yeah.
even D Wade. D Wade was going to. He was D Wade was not Dean Wade. Excuse me, Dwayne Wade, the real D Wade. You knew. You know. Even later on his tenure with LeBron, he wasn't. As you could see, a slow decline. He still showed up though. Still was effective. A game. He was a winner. He was a gamer. Um, Donovan, it's just like right now, dude, you're just a phenomenal offensive player. But like last night, even I look at his stat line. You had 2 points, 1 assist. You know what I mean? That's it. That's all I
Yeah.
got is 1 assist, and that's why Evans only got 4 shot attempts. But everybody always wants to point the finger at Evan though, and say Evan needs to be better. Evan needs to do this. Evan needs to be this. Evan's not doing what he's not becoming the franchise guy we need to be. What about Donovan? See, everybody wants to look at the points in the box score, but they don't want to look at all the result, and they don't want to look at the impact, truly the true impact on a game. You know, Mobley actually would have more impact on a game than Donovan if he was utilized properly, because he's a two-way guy and he does everything. He really does. He's shown me. I've seen it. I've seen him be a playmaker at times out of the pinch post, getting guys open shot, throwing the ball. I've seen him be dominant down low when he gets the ball down by the paint. I've seen him put the ball on the floor, get the basket, and dunk it with his left hand. He can hit a three here and there. He can rebound. I've seen him push it up the floor. He's shown that ability. I've seen him be a dominant defensive anchor. The Cavs have never put it all together with him. That's the difference, in my opinion, Humble. If I put Evan Mobley into Golden State, that son bitch would be a totally different player. He would unlock a whole new level with Steve Kerr. I guarantee it. Just because it's just the coaching and development, I think they would actually get they would utilize him properly, like the Cavs should be using him. But they've always wanted him to be KD when he's more like AD, and they just, or maybe they're just going to come around to that, you know. And I mean for my little side rant, but yeah, you
No,
know,
yeah.
I agree with your point though about Donovan. It's just like, I mean, what did you think about Kenny Atkinson? My take on him. I mean, the seat,
Well,
that's gotta be hot as it could be.
no, sure. I was gonna say, well, going back to real quick to the Don thing. You know, I truly believe, and this is just me off the top right now. To right now, I always have a different opinion for another day. But I really think that maybe Koby Altman, uh, and maybe even Kenny Atkinson said, "Yeah, let's get DG out of here. Let's get Harden. Maybe even out this record, make it look better than what it really looks like,
Mm,
and we'll see what will what will look like in the playoffs." But I'm not banking on Harden to be the. I don't think anyone should be banking on Harden to look like a superstar or H Town Harden. We shouldn't be looking at that. We all know he's past that, right? But it all goes back to Donovan being a leader. Um, James Harden hasn't been to an NBA Finals, ladies and gentlemen. But Chris Paul, back in 2021, being a leader on that team, you could say it was Devin Booker, but the guy who orchestrated that offense and had everyone under control in that locker room was Chris Paul. Believe it or not, that's a 6 foot guy. Um,
And when he went down in that Warriors series, they had him on the ropes, and then when he got hurt, that's when they lost.
right.
And James Harden scored 0 points in the game 7 in the fourth quarter.
That's a guy 6 foot who wants to play defense. And if he was maybe even 2 inches taller, Joe, we might be calling him the greatest point guard of all time. I mean, that's how much he cared about on defense, and his offensive game was amazing. It's it. My thing is this: it goes back to Donovan. If Chris Paul can bring his team to the finals, and you have James Harden, Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, I mean, dude, it's not even like, bro, you've had so many good teams that you've been part of. I mean, at some point you can't just be like, "Oh, I'm going to get out of here." You know what I mean?
You're right. And the Cavs, they have a championship banner before you got here, bro.
Yeah.
You could say, well, they had LeBron and Kyrie, but it's like, no, I mean, Koby Altman was here for that. Dan Gilbert was the owner. You had some people up in the front office that were still here. You mean the Cavs have as an organization have shown they can get there.
100%. The culture is there, and it always will be.
Right. And
We're a sports culture city.
exactly. And you re-signed here for a reason. Because when you got here was, well, they got 2 years to show me. Well, they
Yeah.
showed you all right, didn't they?
Right.
And but this guy, he's had a defensive player of the year in Utah with Rudy Gobert. He had a defensive player of the year in Cleveland with Evan Mobley. He's
Yeah.
had Darius Garland. He's had Mike Conley, who was not a bad guy when he was with him. He's had James Harden now. He wanted him. They went out and got him. He's had Jared Allen. He's had all these shooters.
Yeah,
Like
Joe Ingles. Yeah, you've had all these shooters. Yeah.
this is your last. I mean, Quinn Snyder's actually a good
Quinn
coach.
Snyder's a hell of a coach.
Hell of
Yeah.
a coach. I think Kenny Atkinson's a really good coach. I think defensively needs to be better. JB Bickerstaff, look what he's doing. He's
Yeah.
not a bad coach either. Like at some point, bro, it's on you. Like
Yeah.
you got to get it done. And that team, they quit on JB, but JB goes to Detroit with some killers, and look what they're doing. They're all
Right.
bought in, and that's a damn good team up there. And they play defense. That's why they win a lot of the games. It's defense.
Yeah.
They don't have all
Yeah.
one-on-one scores. They only got Cade really, but they play defense. They play good team basketball. That's why they're about to win the Central. And so, like, dude, this is his last shot to prove he's the guy. Because if not, Dan Gilbert's gonna say, "I'm gonna go bring my guy I always can rely on." Who is you're not on his level. Sorry, you never will be. This is a goat of he's a goat of the sports. And when he comes in, oh, he's the sheriff in town. This is his
Oh, 100%.
this is his city. Like I love Jalen Tyson when they asked him about LeBron. He said, "Well, this is Donovan." Nah, brother. I hate to break it to you. Right now, it's Myles Garrett's city.
That clip
Because
is
he's a
aging
Cleveland
badly.
Brown.
Oh, 100%.
If Shador balls out, it'd probably be his city because he's quarterback. But
Right.
when LeBron is in town, shit. They got a banner like this for a reason.
Right. Right.
It's his
Right.
city. Like when he
It
comes,
is.
and that's why he's on the clock. Koby Altman's on the clock.
Yeah.
Kenny Atkinson's on the clock.
Yeah.
Dan Gilbert's smart. Dan Gilbert, no, I'm not. You think that? I'm not letting that retirement tour money get out of my hands. This guy, he belongs to our city. He's a Cavalier. He's going out of Dan Gilbert, I'm telling you, Dan Gilbert will do whatever it's going to take to get him back this offseason. He's made that very clear. That's when you heard that stuff, the Cavs will gladly welcome him back. What they're saying is, it's more than just, well, yeah, we want you back. No, we'll do whatever it takes, And I think a lot of that too is, hey, you want so and so gone? You don't think they fit? All right, deuces.
Yeah.
He's going to do whatever it takes. He's going to build a team that will fit this guy to maximize him. And to get him, possibly a ring on the way out too. You know, I think LeBron's going to want to try to get one more out of here. If he gets to 5 and matches Kobe, man, he's got a
I'm
hell
sure
of
he'd
a.
be okay with that.
Yeah, I mean that's a his career's
I mean,
already
that's a ring
great.
on each finger. I mean, I'm sure he'd be okay with that.
Yeah, you get that done. You match Kobe with 5. I mean that's and 2 in Cleveland. Shoot, woo!
Dude,
You're
yeah,
talking the greatest athlete of all time. I mean, let's be
100%.
honest. Like you're in the like
100%.
you know you're up there. So it's hard to. It's those 2 Cleveland Marines have a lot of weight to them. So I, yeah, man, I just think the pressure's on. But this is Donovan's last shot right here, humble. This is it. This if he wants to be
I
the
agree.
guy, this is his last shot. Or else, because if he doesn't get it done and LeBron comes back, he'll forever be a Robin the rest of his career.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you?
And honestly, and I hate to say this, it might work out better that way because what play style does LeBron like? He likes a shooting guard at like, and
Yeah,
what is play style does Donovan Mitchell game mirror?
high scoring guard.
Dwayne Wade, right? A high scoring guard.
Kyrie.
Kyrie, yeah,
And Kyrie tried going out of his zone, and it was like, nah, you were better with LeBron.
right,
With
right. And if
LeBron,
it
you
wasn't
were.
for KD ruining the league, I mean, we would have 3, 4 championships. And I hate
Oh,
to say
if we
that.
didn't get hurt the
It's
first
the
year and
truth.
Katie didn't do that, the Cavs could have won 4 in a row
Oh, easily back to back. One of
easily.
the years would have been back to
They
back.
could have won 3 out
Easily.
of 4 easily, or maybe 4. I
Easily.
mean, that team.
I mean, we could go all day.
A 73 win team had to go beg Kevin Durant to come, who they beat, to come join them to beat LeBron and Kyrie.
And we came back 3-1 that same year. I mean, come on, dude. I mean, it's just.
Man, shout out to Teflon Don. He said he's got the Browns are pure cheeks. Plain and simple. He said. Man. Draft month, Teflon. Draft month, baby. I can't wait.
Around the corner.
And I can't wait. And so that's all we got. You got any more thoughts on this, humble? I think I've ran enough on this.
No, yeah, that was good. I liked
I
everything.
mean, this is gonna be probably obviously an ongoing story we'll be covering.
Sure.
So, but it is draft month though. So we got Browns draft. You know what that means? TBF, he'll be making a return this month. Yep, Mike will be back this month doing his draft coverage. So make sure you like, subscribe, and share, and stay tuned for that. I'm sure he's got a lot he's going to unpack. But going to our last segment now, though, humble for the show. This is one you sent me today. Let me get the slide up here for you. My apologies. So, Humble sent me this today. It says, "Life will never wait for you to be okay. Get up and carry your burden and keep going." Which is a very powerful quote when you read it and you kind of get the gist of what it's saying. And then Humble, I'll play the video you sent me with Theo Vaughn here. That kind of really goes along with it. And here's what Theo had to say.
Dustin texted me one day. Poirier texted me. He's like, "You can't wait for everything to be okay to live your life." And it was, you ever get a text from somebody says one of those moments where it gets through to you, Yeah. And I was like, yeah, that's
So, kind of what he said there's Dustin Poirier, obviously a legendary UFC fighter, sent him basically the same message one day, and it kind of just got him going. And I know we're both fans of Theo. I know you love Theo Vaughn. I think Theo's great. Shout out to Theo Vaughn. But Humble, I guess the floor is yours. I mean, the floor is yours, brother. I mean, just give your thoughts on this and why you wanted to really talk about this and share what it means to you.
No, yeah. I just think like a lot of brothers, I know we always relate and say it's just like it's so easy to get caught up with the devil and just what he wants you to get caught up with. Really, you should be, deep down what you should be doing, and sometimes it gets distracted by, the distractions. And I think just looking at that image say a lot, and then once you read the caption, it it means a lot because, you know, sometimes just taking a walk and realizing, hey, I got a shirt on and pants and socks and shoes, you know what I mean? It's like, hell, this is what you got right now in the moment, but it's I know people don't look at it like that. Like sometimes they don't think of it as a blessing, and I know we do, but I'm saying like what I'm trying to say about that is like you can't take stuff to the grave with you. Um, you can't, you know what I mean? You gotta appreciate everything you have. I feel like, and you can't get caught up in stuff because if you get caught up in stuff, you get distracted um, and your ultimate goal of life and why you started in the first place. Like with getting down, you get so depressed, and you know what I mean. You never really truly do what you want to do because you're thinking the wrong thoughts. And if you just keep moving while you're chasing your dream, like let's say for instance, like I have a old friend back in Idaho named Barry, and I told him he's an older guy. I was like, man, Barry, my head's just hurting all day, man. I don't think I can go to work. He's like, just go to work. He was like, after you get done with work, your headache will be gone. Like that's just the type of old timer he was. But like without even knowing what he meant by that, it was as I got older, it was really you keep moving forward while we're healing. You know, you can't heal by staying in one place. You carry your weight with you alone. You carry it the burden that you're going through everywhere you go. You can't get away from it. It's like a dark cloud, but it's the way that we handle it with our emotions, and it's I guess just depression can be a storm, but it's whether how you want to handle it and whether you're gonna let it get the best of you or you gonna do what you know that you have to do with that devil trying to distract you that whole time, and you're just like, you know what, uh, f that, I got this type of thing. That's what I gotta say, Joe.
Yeah, that was awesome. I appreciate you sharing that. Um, I'm gonna let your message kind of be the main. People just sit and really think about what you said. Only thing I'll add to it, I guess I got to say something. Tomorrow is the 4-year anniversary of this show when I did my first episode, and obviously that's what I'm most known for is that first episode. And I think it kind of just it's a great message, kind of reminder what goes along with this. How I waited so long. I put for to do that. I knew that's what God was calling me to do at that time in my life. It was a big moment for me, a monumental moment in my life that really changed everything. To go out there and share my story like that raw, and just I didn't have any equipment or anything. I had a tablet and I had the microphone. Everything was sitting here. I just never did it. I just put it off, put it off, put it off. I was waiting for everything to be the right time,
Yeah,
or what I thought was it had to be perfect. But then God,
yeah,
a week of a lot of challenges and hell, and I remember that morning I got in the car and I saw a lot of homeless people in this one part of town. I was in more towards the inner city in Akron, and I remember I saw these homeless people in this one spot. There was this one spot back then, and that's post COVID. It was always just became like a homeless row for a short period. It was sad, but I remember
hmm,
people out there, ask for money, and then you could say it was like real. It wasn't like the fake panhandlers. You know what I mean? That go out there and hustle
oh
money. And
sure,
this is like real deal. Holy, this was you could tell everybody knew it. Like you do. And I remember we were driving through, and I was thinking about it that day. I remember my dad and I were driving around Jersey now, and I was like, man, I might do it. I might go home and just do it today. I might just go on and tell my testimony, just put it out there. I knew it was, I had the idea from Kwame Brown when he came out, and I knew it's what I wanted to do, and I was putting it off, and then finally, I remember, we were standing at this light, and over in the corner, there they are. Maybe one of them's asking for money, the other one's just sitting there. My dad's like, "Here," he's like, "You think this guy, you think he gets up every day and he's got to do what he's got to do? You don't, he's not putting off. You think he has anxiety? You think he don't sleep at night? You think
yeah,
what I mean? Do you think he's gone without sleep? Like, you think this guy's, he's got a whole, what I mean? Their life's in a crisis. They get up and they keep going every day, though. They do the best they can. And eventually, maybe some hope that they get out of it, And I remember that just kind of spoke to me, and I was just like, you know what, I'm going home and doing it. Like, what am I putting this off for? Somebody out there had to hear it, and obviously it helped a lot of people. And I know people I've never watched the video. And I'll watch it when I feel like it's time for me to watch it. But I know people that have watched it multiple times because it just something I said reached to them. And it wasn't me. I think it was God. It was God speaking through me. But something in that video spoke to them. I know people that watched it multiple times, and then somebody told me when they get down, they go watch it. And it's kind of just like it reminds me of that day. You know, that's who I. It wasn't just me looking at that person like, man, they inspired me and I need to go home and do this. But also it was like, somebody might need to hear my story. Look what I heard somebody else's story, a couple people's story. Look how they helped me. What am I doing? I gotta get out there, and I'm glad I did because I would have never met Humble. I would have never met a lot of people, a lot of you. I mean, I wouldn't be what I became today in my own life. So
Yes,
I
sir.
think well, no matter where you start, it don't have to be perfect. You just keep going. If God is calling you somewhere, and lean on the Lord, Christ will carry your burdens and help you through it. He promises to do that. It says in Scripture. And as long as you lean on Him and surrender to Him, He will guide you throughout the way. And you never know where He's going to lead you to. I got some things happening in my life. Maybe one day I'll have you help me with it, Humble. I'll do a life kind of update where I'm at now in my life. But I mean, there's a lot of things I'm involved with now to keep private, nobody knows about, that I never thought I'd be back involved in again. Especially go back 4 years ago, I never would imagine where I am now. A year ago, 2 years ago, especially, I never would imagine what I'm doing now. And I'm glad it's happened. And it's definitely where I've always wanted to be, and I'm definitely back to my true self. So,
Amen, brother. For
but
sure.
give a round of applause for all of that for you and what you said, and then just for the 4 years of the show.
No, hell yeah. I have to.
Thank you to all you guys and love all you guys. Thank you so much for all the support all the years, and we're just getting started, keeping going and keeping it going. Excuse me, and looking forward to the next 4 and beyond. So,
Heck yeah. It's the greatest way to say it.
and my man Humble also got his show going too. You want to plug that before we get up out of here, Humble?
No, yes, sir. Humble Man MMA. I'm gonna be doing what Joe's doing too, man. We're just getting content out there. It's gonna take a little bit. I'm just like how he was saying, just wanting to get some stuff out there, but it's gonna take some time, but slowly but surely, one day at a time. And I'm glad we did this this video because this probably been one of my favorite discussions, honestly, even though it's been so short. It's been really good. And you could really just see the chemistry throughout the couple of last videos. And I know a couple of the guys been. I know I send you a couple of the messages of how they like the videos. So yeah, man, it's been fun doing this stuff. And yeah, man, appreciate you guys tuning in.
For sure. We'll have more of these discussions. We're just getting started. So make sure you guys like, subscribe, share all the good stuff. We will see you the next one. We're out of here. Gone.